We, the so-called intermittents du spectacle, part-time and temporary workers in the live performing arts, film, and the audiovisual media, continue to oppose the so-called UNEDIC agreement of March 22nd in its entirety. UNEDIC is the French private fund that manages all unemployment benefits. What we wish to stress is that, while Annexes 8 and 10 specifically concern our benefits, this agreement addresses more wide-reaching issues that go far beyond culture and concern social rights overall. The new UNEDIC agreement will sharply cut back on benefits for all unemployed people without distinction. Not only will it bring about a drastic reduction in unemployment compensation, but it will worsen the position of all unemployed workers in terms of insecurity and dependency, and further cowing them into submission. The point at issue is both economic and political. It goes back to a model of social protection established at the close of World War II by the National Council of the Resistance, the NCR. This historic model is based on the idea of mutual support and solidarity in the workplace, as opposed to what is being proposed, a bean-counter approach to social rights leading to the impoverishment of the entire workforce. We oppose this retreat from protection of the most vulnerable in our society, rights that we believed were recognized and firmly entrenched and are in danger of being swept away. The current Socialist Party leaders' contempt for the people, including their own constituents, is at least on a par with the policies of Nicolas Sarkozy's post-2007 policies, justice, higher education, state-run firms, and breakdown of the network of the rich fabric of civil society, with the arbitrary cuts in and withdrawals of subsidies from a sector which, in effect, is France's largest employer. To be specific, what the unemployed are facing today foreshadows a much broader scheme threatening all the workers of Europe. This is to be seen in the workfare concept being applied in the UK, which amounts to compulsory labour under the threat of losing all benefits. Provisions like the highly controversial zero-hour contracts in Britain, the CDII in France, indeterminate temporary contract, and similar provisions in Germany are depressing evidence of this trend. President Hollande's interest in such provisions was revealed by his warm welcome to Peter Hartz, the brains behind the dismantling of unemployment insurance in Germany. In fact, the situation in Germany is disastrous, with an apparently low unemployment rate, concealing a proliferation of poor or very poor workers. This brings us to the insidious move towards new job descriptions for workers in the performing arts and AV media, an old ploy revisited in the current negotiations. Should a theatrical electrician, a set designer, or a makeup artist be forced to accept any job on a building site or in a shop? The idea of skills transfer is being used to undermine the specific experience and competencies of our sector. We are not against reform in France, but we are proposing an alternative way ahead. We have come up with a reliable and sustainable model of unemployment insurance for part-time and temporary workers in our sector, one in fact that could be applied more widely to all the unemployed and also to all casual workers, whatever the category. But our proposals, which were endorsed by many MPs and some even drafted jointly with political leaders from across the political spectrum, have not been taken up by the powers that be. Why should the so-called left have recognized and appreciated our reform efforts only to ignore them once in power? We reject the idea that the pressures of European finance should be used as the rationale for overriding responsibility for state social protection. The measurement of the growth of a country in pure monetary terms is a fallacy. We contend that the essential benchmark of growth of any country is its human capital, the men and women who compose society. Let's not forget that 80% of those in throwaway jobs are women, most of them lone parents with children, with scant access to training. Along with retired people, they constitute the majority of those at risk. We strongly assert that we are the people, we are society. If the voice of the people is not heard, Europe, as a political entity, is doomed. The spinelessness of successive governments and some unions, together with media manipulation, have allowed fear to fester and push some electorates into populist extremism at the ballot box and others onto the streets. The street is the cutting edge. What we are saying is that the only way for us to resist is to stand together. By saying we should join forces, we are not resuscitating an old left-wing slogan, but are calling for a collective response to the erosion of individual and collective rights. One example, the ongoing secret talks on Transatlantic Free Trade Area, TAFTA, which we hear is simply a new version of GATT of sinister memory. At a time when 86% of French recruitment is for fixed-term contracts by their nature insecure, defending rights to reasonable unemployment benefit for all is the bare minimum. Denis Kessler, one of the leading lights of the French employers' union MEDEF, deplored the fact that the French social model was the brainchild of the National Council of the Resistance, and that the more determined elements in the MEDEF were bent on putting an end to it. I quote him. When you look at it more closely, you can see that this ambitious program, the NCRs, all hangs together. You want a list of reforms that should be introduced? You have it all there. It's simple. Just get rid of everything that was put in place between 1944 and 1952, without exception. Today we need to get away from 1945 and methodically undo the program of the National Council of the Resistance. End of quote. We believe and we propose that there should be a clear separation of MEDEF and state. Given the starkness of these attacks, we must keep the political program of the NCR firmly in mind, namely, the legitimacy of broad and sustainable social rights. This is not merely a nostalgia trip, but a call for democratic forces of the country to rise up and to restore the effective autonomy of individuals and public entities alike.